Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and realizing something is wrong. Your phone didn't charge overnight, the clock on your microwave is blank, the Wi-Fi isn't working. You flip a light switch, nothing happens. At first, you don't panic. Power outages happen. Maybe a storm damaged a power line. Maybe the utility company is fixing a problem. You make coffee. Or at least you try to. The machine doesn't turn on. You check your phone. No signal. No internet. No news. No updates. An hour passes. Then another. The power still hasn't returned. Traffic lights stop working. Gas stations close. Stores begin locking their doors. A TMS go offline. And suddenly, millions of people are asking the same question. What happens if the power doesn't come back? And perhaps the most uncomfortable part is this. Most people are only 3 days away from discovering how dependent they really are on systems they never think about. Not because they lack resources, but because modern life was never designed to function without electricity. Most people think of electricity as a convenience, something that powers lights, televisions, and phone chargers. But modern civilization runs on electricity in ways most people rarely think about. Your food supply depends on it. Your water supply depends on it. Your communication systems depend on it. Your banking system depends on it. Even the trucks delivering food to supermarkets depend on infrastructure powered by electricity. In many ways, electricity is not simply a utility. It is the invisible foundation beneath modern life. And the strange thing is that we usually do not notice systems until they fail, which raises an uncomfortable question. How long could modern society function without electricity? Before we continue, if you enjoy documentaries that uncover the hidden systems modern civilization depends on, subscribe to Nexplainr. Every week we explore the infrastructure, technology, financial systems, and geopolitical forces shaping the modern world. If that sounds interesting, subscribe and stay connected to Nexplainr so you never miss future documentaries. Now imagine that the power outage continues, not for a few hours, not for a single day, but for several days, because that is when the real problems begin. The first 24 hours would be surprisingly chaotic. Most people assume food shortages happen because food disappears, but that's usually not how shortages begin. The food exists. The problem is distribution. Modern supermarkets operate using highly efficient supply chains. Most stores only keep a limited amount of inventory. New products arrive constantly. When deliveries stop, shelves begin emptying faster than most people realize. At the same time, electronic payment systems stop functioning. Credit cards, mobile payments, online banking. Many people would suddenly discover that access to money and possession of money are not the same thing. You might have thousands of dollars in your account, but if the systems connecting you to it stop working, that money becomes difficult to access. And that creates a powerful psychological shift. People stop thinking about convenience. They start thinking about essentials: food, water, fuel, medicine. The things that matter when systems become unreliable. By the end of the first day, another problem begins to emerge: fuel. Many people assume gas stations simply store gasoline and sell it. But modern gas stations depend on electrically powered pumps. No electricity means no fuel. No fuel means transportation begins slowing down. And once transportation slows down, almost everything else becomes more difficult. Food deliveries, emergency services, supply chains, all begin experiencing pressure. But the second day introduces a problem that many people never consider: water. Most people assume water simply comes from the tap. You turn a handle, water appears. Simple. Except it is not. Behind every faucet is an enormous system. Water treatment facilities, pumping stations, pressure systems, monitoring infrastructure, all of it requires electricity. In many regions, backup systems can help temporarily, but prolonged outages create increasing challenges. And suddenly, one of the most basic necessities of life becomes far less certain. This is where the crisis becomes personal. You can live without social media. You can live without streaming services. You can live without online shopping. But water is different. The moment people begin questioning access to water, everything changes. The illusion of normal life starts to disappear. And perhaps that is the most unsettling part. Civilization often feels permanent, but many of the systems supporting it are surprisingly fragile. Not weak, but interconnected. And interconnected systems can create unexpected vulnerabilities. By the third day, the situation becomes even more serious. Hospitals remain operational through backup generators. Emergency services continue functioning. Governments activate contingency plans. But resources are not unlimited. Communication networks begin struggling. Mobile towers require power. Internet infrastructure requires power. Data centers require power. The systems that connect modern society together begin experiencing increasing strain. At the same time, refrigerators and freezers stop preserving food. Medical supply chains become more complicated. Businesses remain closed. Economic activity slows dramatically. People begin realizing this is not simply a blackout. It is a systems crisis. By this point, the real danger is no longer darkness. It is coordination. Communication depends on power. Transportation depends on power. Payments depend on power. Water depends on power. When all of those systems rely on the same invisible network, a single failure can begin spreading into every other system. And that distinction matters. Because most people think civilization depends on governments, or corporations, or political leaders. But in reality, civilization depends on infrastructure. Infrastructure quietly makes modern life possible. The electrical grid is one of the most important examples. In fact, if the electrical grid disappeared tomorrow, many of the systems people think of as separate would disappear with it. Banking, communication, logistics, water, healthcare. The grid doesn't support modern civilization. In many ways, it is modern civilization. In fact, it may be one of the most important machines humanity has ever built. Millions of miles of transmission lines, power plants, substations, control systems, engineers, maintenance crews, all working together to create something most people take for granted every day. The remarkable thing is that this system works extraordinarily well, most of the time. But what if a large-scale failure actually occurred? Could it happen? The answer is more complicated than many people assume. A nationwide outage is unlikely. Electrical grids are designed with redundancies and protections. But history has shown that disruptions can happen. Extreme weather events have caused widespread outages. Cybersecurity experts continue studying threats to critical infrastructure. But there is one threat that does not come from hackers, storms, or human error. It comes from the sun, solar storms. Most people have never heard of the Carrington event. In 1859, a massive solar storm disrupted telegraph systems around the world. If a similar event occurred today, the consequences could be significantly larger because modern society is far more dependent on electrical infrastructure. That does not mean catastrophe is inevitable. But it does highlight an important reality. The systems supporting modern civilization deserve attention precisely because they are so important. And that brings us to the deeper lesson hidden within this story. At first glance, this seems like a documentary about electricity. But it isn't. It is a documentary about dependency. The same pattern appears again and again throughout history. The world depends on shipping routes. The world depends on financial systems. The world depends on communication networks. The world depends on energy infrastructure. Most of the time, we don't notice these systems because they work. And successful systems often become invisible until they fail. The electrical grid reveals a larger truth about modern civilization. The things we depend on most are often the things we think about least, not because they are unimportant, but because they are reliable. Reliability creates invisibility, and invisibility creates complacency. Yet the moment those systems disappear, their importance becomes obvious, which brings us back to the original question. What happens during the first 72 hours without electricity? The answer is not the collapse of civilization, not chaos, not the end of the world. The real answer is something far more revealing. We discover how much of modern life depends on systems we rarely notice, and perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. The foundations of civilization are often hidden beneath the surface. Quiet, ordinary, invisible, until the day they stop working. If you enjoy documentaries that uncover the hidden systems behind power, money, infrastructure, and influence, subscribe to Nexplainr. And here's the question. What system do you think modern society depends on most, but rarely thinks about? Let us know in the comments below.